Hey gang, Dan from Blues Angel Music here, and clearly I'm not at Blues Angel Music right now. I'm actually in the screen room at my house because I'm quarantining myself. I'm trying to stay away from the coronavirus and practice social distancing. Right now there's nobody out here with me. Of course I live at home with my family, and a concern is bringing a virus home, whether it's on me or on my instrument or anything like that. Or when I come home, as I'm not a gigging musician, but when I come home, if I do have the virus, say on my arms or somewhere on me, and I want to go play my instrument, then I've put the virus on my guitar. So the virus can live in the air for several hours. It could live on different surfaces for up to several days, depending on how porous the surface is. And also depending on how porous the surface is, that determines how much of the virus can transfer to you. So for instance, say a wood, the virus can be further down in the pores of the wood, so it's harder to get that virus on you. Whereas if it were on, say, a stainless steel countertop, then touching the touching the countertop, you're going to pick up a lot of the virus right away. So I'm not a gigging musician, so I don't really take my instruments out, but I do go out into the world to go to work or to go to the grocery store or the gas store. We've all got to go out and get provisions, even if we're staying at home. So a concern is whether or not I'm going to bring something home with me and then put it on the countertop at home or put it on my guitar when I pick it up to play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the steps and what you can do to try and keep your instrument clean, so that you don't carry the virus, or you don't transfer the virus from you to your instrument and then back to you, and just start a cycle that just really would be bad. So first off, let's get into kind of what the virus is. Most viruses, coronavirus and the flu and other things, are made up of three parts. It's RNA, it is a protein, and it's a lipid. Now, the RNA is kind of like your DNA. As I understand it from my research, that's the part that's actually going to change what happens inside your body. The protein is the main bulk of the virus itself, and then the lipid is like a fatty layer on the outside of it that helps it bond with things that are going into your body, that bonds with your cells and gets it into your body, so that that's how you get sick. So I've looked at a lot of different things. When we think about cleaning the surfaces in our house, we want to use like Clorox wipes or other things like that. And we want to spray Lysol over everything and kill stuff. But when we think about our instruments, these have finishes on them that are very delicate. Some of them have nitrocellulose finishes, some of them have lacquer finishes, and so there's lots of different surfaces that we have to consider when we're cleaning. And we want to be really careful about that, because if you use something like a Clorox wipe on your nitrocellulose finish, then you're very likely to end up with a hazy finish at the end, and that's just not desirable. But what we want to do is we want to break down that fatty outer layer of the virus so that the virus will basically disintegrate at that point, because it won't be able to attach to anything and get into your body and live. So what I've found the most gentle but also most effective is the same thing that we use to wash our hands, and that's going to be soap. Here I've got some dish soap. And what happens with the soap, just like it does when you wash your hands, is that friction and the soap breaks down the outer layer of the virus and then renders it neutral, basically, so that it can't do any more harm. So what we're going to do is, I've got a bowl of warm water here and a microfiber cloth. I've got a dry microfiber cloth. This is very important, because what we're going to do is we're going to mix the soap with the water, kind of like if we were going to do a sink of dishes. And we're going to wring out the rags so we've got very little water and soap on there, but we do have the soap and the water, which is what's necessary. We're going to wipe down the instrument. We're going to give it a good bit of friction so that we can try and make sure that we break that outer layer of the virus, and then we're going to dry it off, and then when we're done, we're going to polish it back up, and we'll have an instrument that's safe for us to use and hand off to our children, and know that we're more than likely not going to transmit any viruses that way. And the first thing that we need to do to kind of make it easier is go ahead and clip the strings off. And we're going to start with no strings, that way we can get access to all the tuning pegs, all the tuning keys, we can get all the way down in the fretboard, we can get all up around the bridge and the saddle, and we can make sure that we get everything nice and clean. Okay, now that I've got plenty of slack in my strings, I'm just going to cut them and take them off. I'm going to go ahead and put my pins in the soapy water. Alright, now I've got all the strings off my guitar, I've got my pins, they're in the water, I'm about to add some soap. When I get done, I'm going to be putting on these Diodario XT strings, but that's not important right now. What we're worried about is getting the thing clean. I'm going to add some soap. That should be plenty. So like I said, I'm going to wring the rag out because I don't want to put too much moisture onto my guitar. There are some scenarios where you want to add moisture to your guitar so that you can rehydrate it and that sort of thing, but it smells nice too. So I'm just going to start by wiping it down, and I'm going to make sure that I give it some good agitation. I'm going to frequently be going back to my soapy water bucket so that I make sure that I keep a nice load of soap on here. But I don't want to leave it on very long. I'm going to wipe it, agitate, and then I'm going to use my dry microfiber towel to dry it back off. Now, one concern you might have about using soap and water on your guitar is whether or not you're going to dry out the wood, and of course we don't want to do that. So I am going to be using some treatment after this, and you know, of course I want to make sure that my guitar lasts me a nice long time. And also, I want to make sure that you know that I am taking care to wipe the inside lip of the sound hole, because of course soap is going to get on the underside of that while I'm brushing around, and I don't want that to sit there. So when I'm hitting it with my dry towel, I'm making sure to go under the lip. Just blowing the soap bubbles through the holes in the bridge here. Make sure I wipe up the underside of that too. Like I said, we don't want to let any water sit here and just evaporate. We want to make sure we put it on, we do our cleaning, and we get it back off. Now I'm getting the back of the neck, I'm going to get the back of the headstock and make sure that I get in and around all the tuning gears really well. That virus can live for a long time on these hard surfaces. Alright, now I just have to do the front of the headstock, and then I'm going to treat the wood and give it a little polish, and then I'll restring it. Just got my finger in the tip of the rag so I can really push it into those small areas. Alright, so I have washed with soap and water my entire guitar. I didn't get inside the sound hole. We're not going to be reaching inside the sound hole to get anything on us anyway. Of course, you know, the virus... Oh, missed a bit of soap. Jump cut. Alright, so it turns out I forgot to bring my polish out here with me. I've got Dunlop Formula 65 that I'm going to spray on here. I'm going to use my dry microfiber cloth and going to work it all in. I'm going to spray it on the cloth instead of on the actual guitar, and then I'm just going to work it into the wood really good. Make sure that I get the fingerboard really good, and make sure that I put as much oil back into this stuff as possible, because soap and water, I just broke down a lot of fats. The whole idea of it, I just broke down a lot of fats in the oils and stuff that have been put on here before, so the wood is going to look dry. If you don't have something like Dunlop 65, there are lots of other polishes and things that are made for cleaning and polishing guitars. If you don't have any of that and you're sitting at home on quarantine, then you can use your furniture polish and stuff like that. Make sure though that you put it on your rag and don't spray it directly on your instrument, okay? I'm actually going to start with the fingerboard and I'm also going to finish with it, so I'll make sure I put plenty of oil back into there. Now you may have noticed I wiped across the frets so I could get it across all of the wood, and now I'm going back in with my finger so I can push it down into that wood right up to the fret on both sides. Okay, I'm going to come back to that again in a little bit, but right now I'm just going to fold my cloth a little bit and spray a good amount on, and I'm going to start putting it into the body. Wiping across the bridge, I can already tell that it's put a lot of moisture back into that bridge. And again, I'm going to wipe across the grain, and then I'm going to wipe with the grain. And I'm just going to do that a few times, make sure I get plenty of the 65 into the wood. Now the great thing about Dunlop Formula 65 and say Music Nomad products or Planet Waves, there's lots of stuff. The great thing about them is they are formulated to be used on an instrument, so they don't really leave a sheen or an oily feel. Most of them don't. There are a couple out there, I'm not going to name any names, but there are a couple of these polishes that you can buy that are designed for instruments that do leave a greasy film, and then you just end up with fingerprints everywhere. Also, if you do use your home polish, if you're too liberal with the application, then you will end up with a greasy film, and then it's just going to attract dust and it's not going to look good for very long. And like I said, I'm hitting that fingerboard just a lot. I want to make sure I put plenty of moisture back into that wood, because that gets a lot of friction with the strings in your fingers, and just I want to make sure I take care of my instrument so it can take care of me. If you don't have microfiber cloths laying around, I like to detail cars, and I'm just a tinkerer in general. So I do have just a plethora of microfiber cloths out in my garage. But if you don't have microfiber cloths, you can use paper towels. The heavier the better, of course. But you know, just be sure that whatever you use isn't scratchy or abrasive so you don't mess up your finish. Alright, that's got it. It's cleaned, it's polished, it's been conditioned, it is ready for me to pull my pins out of my soapy water and restring it, and then I can play it knowing that I have done my best effort to get any virus, especially right now the coronavirus, off of my guitar and away from me and my family. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Dan from Blues Angel Music. Be sure to check out any of our other videos. I'm going to put some links down below, and we are in Pensacola on Pace Boulevard. Thank you very much.